build it, he will.
It's the Skinny on Sports Podcast with Aaron Dowd.
I throw balls far. You want good words? Data language.
Talk real sports with a real man.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
And now, here's the be-all, end-all, know-it-all of high school, college, and pro sports. Aaron Skinny Count with the Skinny on Sports.
We're talking about practice, man. I'm the MVP.
Good Wednesday morning out there, Western Oklahoma. Welcome to the Skinny on Sports right here on 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal. Glad to have you along for the next hour. Coming up about 9:45 or so, Coach Maynard will be here, Big Elk head coach Zach Maynard, to talk about last week's win in Chickasha. Look ahead to the big battle on Friday night with Weatherford in town. Winner sets themselves up in great position to host a playoff game and be second in the district. And then if something were to happen and Clinton stumbled, be right there to take advantage of that as the district champ as well. So a huge game coming up on Friday for Elk City hosting Weatherford. We'll talk to Coach Maynard about that. We didn't get to the fatal flaw for each of the 8 remaining Power 5 undefeated teams in college football. We'll do that today. What is the flaw for each of those 8 that could get them either beat in a big game or maybe even upset by a team that you wouldn't expect to knock them off? Big games around the state, around the districts out in Western Oklahoma coming up in high school football. Found all 3 polls, so we can kind of compare and contrast the 3 statewide polls in high school football. Boy, the Phillies were just rolling, absolutely rolling. They destroy Arizona last night, 10-0, take a 2-0 lead as the scene will shift down to the desert of Arizona in the NLCS. Kyle Schwarber, he did some things last night with the 2 home runs. He's on lists with some of the greatest of all time. I'll ask everybody a couple of trivia questions about Kyle Schwarber coming up. And then also, I watched a little junior high football. Congrats to one of the teams there last night at Big Elk Stadium. 225-9698 is the phone or the text line. That is 225-9698. Give us a call, shoot us a text. We can talk about any of those things. Whatever else might be on your mind, feel free to chime right in at 225-9698. If you're going to be outside the listening area, a couple ways to stay in touch with the show. Log on to kadsam.com or download the app. The app has it all. We're talking about radio, all 3 radio stations right here. The Penny News. Brand new edition of the Penny News hit the website last night at midnight. Check it out, thepennynews.com online. Also, the print edition of the Penny News will start filtering out a lot of places tonight. By tomorrow morning, you can pick up a fresh free copy of the Penny News. Big Elk and Paragon TV, 3 games this week. Of course, the Elks and Weatherford. You've got Merritt going to Thomas, and Hollis hosting a big one against Balco Forgan in Class B, District 1. So lots of high school football action there, and we're not that far away from high school basketball being on Big Elk and Paragon TV as well. And, of course, the Skinny on Sports podcast. If you missed the show entirely, you can check it out a bunch of different ways at a bunch of different places. Just wherever you find your podcast, go check it out. You can find the Skinny on Sports there. How are you today, Jared?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Big game today.
Yeah.
Big game.
Big opportunity.
Big opportunity for the old Rangers. I saw one of your fellow Ranger fans last night.
Oh, yeah?
Coach Ham. He was a little leery about the Scherzer choice.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
A little leery.
We'll see.
Little bit leery with Max coming in Game 3. Last night, junior high football right here in Elk City. Last game of the season. The 7th graders, it was a struggle all night long. They tied it up at 6, midway through the 4th quarter. Went for the onside kick to get the ball back. Kick didn't go 10 yards, and then Cash threw about a 30-yard touchdown pass. I mean, the safety, the Big Elk, or the junior Elk, whatever they are, this Elk safety. I mean, it looked like the ball grazed his fingertip as he jumped up to try to knock the pass away near the goal line. And great concentration by the kid from Cash, because that's got to be distracting him. He's right in his way, had his hand up, and when the ball was in the air, it was like, oh, yeah, he's going to tip that, and it's like the wind just blew it just enough. Carried it just over his hand. Cash scored a touchdown with like a minute left. And so the 7th graders lose 14-6 They end the season 6-2, which is still very, very, very successful. Then the 8th grade, they had a whale of a battle against Cash. And our man Riley Smith scored the game-tying touchdown for the Elks to make it 20-20, and then he got the 2-point conversion as well.
Nice.
22-20, the 8th grade Elks win and cap off an 8-0 undefeated season for the 8th graders. So great job by both the middle school. Congrats to that 8th grade bunch and going undefeated. They're probably they're good at everything with some of those kids that are out there. So it'd be fun to watch them the rest of the year. And then of course also then you start thinking about a year or two down the road, which one of those guys, how many of those guys are we going to see out there at the varsity level for the Big Elks and the impact that they can have. So good stuff by the middle school, the junior high football. Coach Green took that over this year. It feels like he did a whale of a job kind of creating the culture. I'm going to ask Coach Maynard about that, kind of what the goal of that is once he gets here. But it was fun. It was fun. Lots of people. There was kind of an anticipation a little bit for that 8th grade game just because of trying to complete an undefeated season. Last year they went 6-2. Their 2 losses were to Altus and Cash. And so they got revenge the last 2 weeks of this season to carry it out and get 8-0. Man, I'll tell you what, Cash, number 2, I can't remember what they were saying his last name was. That dude could fly. And he made a play right before halftime where it looked like his body was in the Matrix. Like he was running toward the pylon. It was in the north end, like the front west pylon. And he was running, got pushed at about the 5, and it looked like he was just going to go out of bounds.
Right.
And somehow he contorted his body, his left foot, I think it was his left foot. It might have been his right, though. It hit clearly in bounds at like the 3, and somehow he contorted his body like the Matrix to get the other foot and his arm in bounds right as he just like right inside the pond. It was unbelievable, like where I just happened to be standing to see that coming kind of right at you, and the way his body control is incredible to score that touchdown. But it wasn't a losing effort as the 8th grade Elks end up undefeated. Yeah, Swift or something. That's right. Dustin just sent me a message.
Very appropriate.
Name.
It
was like Swift or it was something like that.
Yeah.
But he was good, but the Elks were just a tick better. So congratulations to them. Did you watch any of the baseball last night?
I had it on, yeah. And then when the Phillies came out and looked like they've done every single win in their postseason run here, and they come out smashing, I didn't lose interest. I was like, okay, well, let's study our spelling words, girls, because this game is over. When it was like 2-0, it's like Diamondbacks. It looked like that it sucked the life out of them. You know what I mean? There was just no pep in their step. Their dugout was dull. You can tell by their body language. And credit Philly. I mean, they put the pressure on them early, but man, that crowd is crazy. They're insane. They stay on top of you. They stay engaged. They stay loud. One guy jumped on the field and got tackled. I mean,
oh my gosh, he got hammered.
He did. But I mean, it's a crazy environment. But outside of all that, it's a really good team. I mean, I describe them as scary. That was texting me last night, and that's a word that was in my head. It's like, this is a really scary, scary team.
So I don't know if it was the first or the second Schwarber bomb. Saw it pop up on ESPN stats and info that Schwarber's home run, that was now 14 over the last 4 games for the Phillies, 4 postseason games, which is the most all time. So I didn't go back to see if it's actually 15 or if that was the second one that made it 14. But either way, they've just been bashing the ball. Schwarber, all right, I've got some trivia here. I'm afraid my description might help you on one of them. So last night, 2 home runs from Kyle Schwarber. That's now 18 career postseason home runs for Schwarber. That ties the all-time postseason home run record for a lefty. So the most postseason home runs hit by a left-handed hitter ties the record. Do you know who he tied?
I do, because I think you wrote it down. So I don't want to
So
Should
225.
we wait for it?
Yeah. Let's get some guesses here. 225-9698. Schwarber now it's tied at the top of the all-time postseason home run record for lefties. He's hit 18 career postseason home runs as a left-handed hitter. One other guy did the exact same amount of home runs as a lefty. Now, last night was his 10th league championship series home run. That ties a guy by the name of Albert Pujols for second all-time in league championship series with 10 home runs. Do you know who holds the record there? The record is 13.
That tied it.
The record is 13 all-time league championship series home runs. We have actually said his name this week.
We've said a lot of names this week. It's only Wednesday.
Oh, here it is. It's Poppy the lefty. It is not Poppy. Older. It's not Chipper.
Think.
See, here's the problem. Chipper probably hit that many, but some were right-handed, some were left-handed.
That's true. That's true. The text line is on it.
Text line is not. That's right. Sammy, Reggie Jackson. Reggie. Mr. October. There you go. Will's got it.
Yeah, I was going to say, think about October. That should have been.
Reggie, I mean, good grief. Here it comes.
Yeah, everybody knows this one.
Okay, so
that's where the name you go to immediately when you think of these numbers.
You got to. But here's the thing: a lot of the home run numbers are skewed more recent because of the rounds of the playoffs are so much more now than they were back when Reggie played.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why it's even crazier.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that shows you that Reggie was on top of it with the amount of playing, with the amount of games that he gets to play, that he didn't get to play actually. Back then. Okay, so now, any guesses for everybody? Who holds the all-time record for league championship series home runs? Schwarber tied Albert Pujols last night for second with 10. This guy's hit 13. Any guesses? Fire him in. 225-9698. This is a name everybody knows. While we're waiting on guesses, how you feeling tonight? Must-win game for the – you say must-win, and I guess that's not technically true, because of 2004 and the Red Sox coming back from down 3-0 in the league championship series against the Yankees. But outside of that anomaly, this is a must-win for the Astros tonight in Arlington.
Right. The analytics say that this is a must-win to try to extend this thing. I guess I would describe myself as cautiously optimistic. I'm not trying to jinx it. But getting the 2 wins on the road, if it was the other way around, if it was being up 2-0,
go to Houston,
and then going to Houston, I'd be okay. Well, we know it's coming, but because I have faith in Scherzer, I have faith in the clubhouse, knowing when to put him out there. Like I said yesterday, and it being back in Arlington, which is crazy. I mean, it's just nuts to me to think about. They're on this 7-game win streak in this postseason, haven't lost a postseason game, and they've only played 1 in Arlington. That blows my mind. So I think the fans are going to be kind of like the Philly fans, maybe not as crazy, but they are hungry for some more live baseball in that beautiful stadium. So cautiously optimistic, but it's still the Astros. It's still a team who probably aren't panicking like maybe a younger team or a team that's not used to being in the championship series as many times as they have been. So cautiously optimistic. I expect a fun atmosphere. Yeah,
like I just got Astros. You're going to have to beat them.
Yeah,
they're not going to just quit.
Well, this is the league champion. This is the LCS. This is not
a
regular season series.
But team.
It's that team. Yeah.
I mean, I think they're like Diamondbacks.
Yeah, here's the deal.
I don't know if they're going to.
Here's the deal, Philly fans.
I don't know.
You look scary and great, but it is just the Diamondbacks. Did they leave did they give everything they got in L.A.? Did they leave it over there on the West Coast?
You can say that all you want to. They also dismantled the 104-win Braves, who won more games than anybody in the regular season as well.
That's true.
But
like the Phillies,
is it too? Let me say this, and I think I may believe. I think I may believe this. Even though the Rangers are up 2-0, I think whoever wins tonight wins the series. Because either Texas takes a almost insurmountable 3-0 lead, or Houston gets things turned around.
I'm not going that far.
With an Astros win?
No. Because I guess, I don't know if this applies at this level, but sometimes I want to see a loss. Like, okay, we're back to reality now. We know we can lose. So let's regather ourselves. We got 2 more games at home. We're good. So I'm not rooting for a loss by any means, but I'm not ready to go that far. I think it's the Final Four of this thing. All 4 teams are worthy of being here. So I'm not ruling them out if they lose. And then just still being up 2-1. It's hard for me to do. It really is. And I'm still kind of stuck on this rhetoric of the Astros just don't seem like the Astros of the past that have, they struggle. I mean, they had to root for the Mariners to do what they did against the Rangers to clinch the AL West, where in past they've ran away with the West. It hasn't been a dominant Astros team as we've seen in the past. Still very good? Absolutely. They have to be. They are. But as dominant as they were in the past, again, they feel off just a little bit. So I don't know.
Don't forget.
Not as intimidated, I guess, is the word I'm trying to.
Don't forget.
What I'm reaching
they
for.
were the second best team on the road in the AL, and they've been awesome.
Yeah.
On the road in this playoff run, not just this year, but in years past. They've won a bunch of big games on the road. So that's where I go with. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit for what they have done versus what they're doing now. And maybe this is kind of the last stand of, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it is kind of the end. I just don't believe it yet until I see it. That's kind of why I'm at.
It's hard. I love this. I love the format, and I was elated that the Rangers took the first 2 games because you got 3 back in Arlington. I think they take. I'll give you this. I think they take 2 of 3.
Who?
Rangers.
Okay.
At home.
Well, then that'll be it.
I think they take 2 of 3 at home.
We shall see. High school football this week.
And I'll finish my thought with this. If they win tonight, I might come in here yelling sweep.
Oh, listen, it doesn't. If they win tonight, it doesn't matter. It's the series is over.
I mean,
if they win tonight,
I would be euphoric if they swept them.
Well, you better worry about winning.
Yeah, but that's just insane to me.
I don't think you want to. I don't know.
But again, I'm being more realist here. That's why I say 2 of 3. I don't think they're going to sweep them. But I don't see them losing 2 of 3 or 3 all at home.
Yeah,
and I know the numbers you see. You think they'll take all 3? Are we going?
I don't know if
are we
they'll
going
get
triple burrito bet here?
I would do a burrito bet. This would actually give you a chance to be ahead of burrito that this series gets back to Houston. I'm not ready to go all the way that the Astros are going to win this series, but I think it gets back to Houston for sure.
You mentioned the road stuff, and I mentioned the Rangers have won 6 of 7 on the road.
It's crazy how this is a really good home team against a really good road team as far as the standings in the regular season anyway.
Yeah,
almost identical records for Texas at home versus Houston on the road. Texas in the regular season 50-31 at home. Houston was 51-30 on the road. So that's really, really interesting, kind of strength on strength here, and it's hard for me to believe. It's just hard for me to believe that they'll bow out like that, but they may. High school football. Let's look at the rankings. I found all the polls. The 4A polls are pretty interesting. They're pretty. The teams are very consistent at the top 8. The order is just a little bit different between the AP, the Oklahoman, and the Tulsa World. All 3 have Wagner 1, Poto 2. That's the one consistent that is there. Wagner 1, Poto 2. All 3 have Wagner 1.
World, Oklahoman,
and AP.
What date am I looking at here?
I don't know. Did I just take that for granted? Somebody has Poto 1?
AP.
Do they really?
And I said that last week.
I must have missed that.
Then I said that last week.
I didn't pay enough attention to it.
Considering how Wagner looked and how Poto's looked, it's going to give more people pause to go, well, maybe Poto's the best team.
That's ridiculous.
AP hasn't won.
Does it show the points?
It's by 2 points.
I'm going to tell you right now, that's ridiculous. When you consider everything that goes into those two, one of them's a defending champion. One of them beat the hell out of the other one in the playoffs a year ago. Come on.
AP has Elk at 10.
Yeah, I do see that. That's so top 8, Wagner, Poto, Blanchard, Ada, Tuttle, Newcastle, Clinton, and Cushing. Everybody's got them in the top 8. Most have Clinton. AP and Oklahoman have Clinton 7. Tulsa World has Cushing 7 ahead of Clinton. I think that's more of a geography than anything. Blanchard 2 and AP or 3, and AP and Oklahoman. Ada gets the number 3 nod in the Tulsa World. Probably a little bit of that same stuff there. Bethany is 9 in the AP and the Tulsa World. Salisal jumps into at 9 in the Oklahoman's poll. Weatherford's actually 10 in the Oklahoman, as you mentioned. The Elks 10 in the AP poll. Salisal out of the Salisal and Bethany are in 2 of the 3 at 9 or 10. The Big Elks are in one of them. Weatherford's in the other. So it feels like everybody kind of, I don't know, expects a certain 8 to be in the semifinals. Quarterfinals.
Uh-huh.
Clinton, the only survivor out of 4A1 in the first round, with Tuttle, Newcastle, and Blanchard winning their games in 4A2. If you go by the polls. We'll see. In Class A, the only team it's Fairview. Fairview is number 1 in all polls. They're in the district with these guys, but they're not close. Class B, the same 3 are top 3 in all. It's just a little different order in the Tulsa World. You've got Sealing, Dewar, and Laverne, number 1, 2, and 3 in the AP and the Oklahoman. Tulsa World has Laverne in the middle. Sealing 1, Laverne 2, Dewar 3. Shattuck shows up number 4 in the Tulsa World. They would be number 6 in the AP. They're just out. They only rank 5. They're the next one. They're all the way down at 10 in the Oklahoman. They've got a chance this week against Turpin to maybe start bumping up in there. And then the Class C poll, top 3 the same in the order in every single one of them. It's Tipton, Timberlake, and Ryan. Mountain View, Gotebo, 4 in the AP, 4 in the Oklahoman, 5th in the Tulsa World. So that C is really consistent. With I think Wilson was number 4 in the Tulsa World, edging Mountain View down to 5. So a lot of similar thoughts as far as the Class C and the top of Class B as well. Anything that kind of, when you look at it, does anything surprise you? Does anything kind of raise your eyebrow? I'm a little surprised, and I understand why, because of those teams, the love for 4A2. I'm a little surprised Clinton hasn't started to edge up the rankings just a little bit when you consider the only 2 losses they have are to 3A number 1, and then a Bishop McGinnis team that's been in the top 10 in 5A all year. Right,
and I think a lot of that is a regional thing. They just look at their record and not who they did it against and all that stuff. But, when the teams above them aren't losing either, it's hard to move those teams down, So it kind of like OU football, it all kind of shakes out. They just, just kind of do your thing. So I guess what I'm saying, I'm not really that surprised that's where they're at. And then, 4A2 has consistently shown us that they're pretty dang good. With Tuttle and Newcastle and Blanchard and there's Bethany, all top 4 of their teams are ranked in the top 10. And 3 of them above 7. So I guess I'm not too shocked by that. Based on the AP poll, the sets up for a big. I know we're going to talk about big games, but in Class C, Tipton and Mountain View, we're going to go at it on Friday night. Could be a big shake-up if Mountain View can pull off the upset in that one. But everything else just seems pretty much to chalk. Just is kind of what we expected.
4A1 games this week. Obviously, Weatherford at Elk City is the biggest one as far as the standings go. Chickasha at Clinton, Cache at John Marshall. Round out the week. Woodward has the district week off this week. In Class A, let's go back right quick. For Weatherford Elk City, the Elks have won the last 2. Weatherford won 8 straight from 12 to 19. They didn't play in 20 because of COVID. And then the Elks won 2 straight before that. So Elk City won in 10 and 11. Then an 8-game winning streak for Weatherford sandwiched in the last 2 wins for the Elks. It's been kind of a streaky series. If the Elks can win on Friday, first time in a quarter century, though, that they'd be able to get that 3rd win in a row. They've never been able to get 3 in a row in that streak. Clinton 5-1 against Chickasha since the Chicks came to 4A1 in 2016. For all intents and purposes, a win will lock up 2nd at worst in the district for Clinton with 2 games left. At that point, they'd have to lose them both, and whoever wins Friday night win them both to be able to leapfrog Clinton if they happen to stumble at the end, which it doesn't seem real possible. In Class A, District 1, Merritt goes to Thomas. A loss, and they're pretty well out of the playoff chase because of who they've already lost to. Sayre hosts Moreland. If they were to lose, they're not all the way out because of their schedule with a chance against Texoma, but things would have to break just right. But a win sets up the game next week with Texoma on the road to where if the Eagles are able to win that one, then all they'd have to do is defeat Burns Flat at the end in Week 10 to wrap up a playoff spot. So Sayre's schedule is way more manageable than Merritt's because Merritt's got at Thomas. They still got to play Fairview, and they also still have to play Hooker. So that's a tough ask for the Oilers. That's why that loss last week was so huge for them. And then you mentioned the Class C game with Tipton and Mountain View Gotebo. In Class B, basically a playoff game in my mind between Hollis and Balco Forgan. The Tigers host that game Friday night. We'll have it on Paragon TV. A win there, and now they're in there with Shattuck, Turpin, and Laverne. The loser of that kind of falls down there in the Beaver side of things where it looks like they'll be on the outside looking in. So a huge game for Hollis on Friday night. A win, you're in the playoffs, and then you're figuring out if you can bump up from the 4 spot. So big ones, and that's no surprise. We're in Week 8. No surprise that we start getting some of these big district games.
They get more important, and it's fun when they're like this. We got winning teams with winning records playing against each other late in the year, not the beginning of the year. You kind of wish that the I-40 trio played the last end of the last, what, 3?
Week 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah.
Like starts this week with Elk City and Weatherford, and then you got Weatherford and Clinton or Big Elks and Clinton. Yeah, I would agree. It doesn't seem like it's ever been that way, though. It seems like one of them's early and one of them's later.
Yeah.
At least for the Elks. And then Weatherford Clinton always right kind of
around like the OU Texas weekend. Yeah.
2nd or 3rd game in the district normally for those two.
Yeah.
Still haven't had a guess at the question that I asked in the first segment. Kyle Schwarber hit his 10th home run in the league championship series last night, tying Albert Pujols for 2nd all-time. Who holds that record for most league championship series home runs? The number is 13. So Schwarber got away.
There was one guess.
What was it?
Mickey
Mantle. Yeah, there
Mantle.
it is. Mickey Mantle is not correct. I missed that one. Oh, we have a winner.
And it is?
We have a winner. Manny Ramirez. Manny Ramirez with 13. John David got it. Not surprised. He's up on that kind of thing.
Well, we gave him plenty of time to Google it.
He's already mad at you about the Astros-Rangers stuff. You better simmer down over there. All right, let's go.
Yeah. Well, that makes even more sense. He cheated.
Whammo. Yeah, he's going to have some choice words for you on my text line. I knew it. All right, let's look at fatal flaws. All right, there are eight remaining Power 5 undefeateds in college football as we hit the 3rd week of October. And at this point in the season, let's look and see, okay, what do we think could derail each of these teams? I used an article, I'm not going to lie to you, for some of these numbers from Bill Conley on ESPN's website. Mm-hmm. If I thought, probably they don't run it very good. Well, then you looked up and he actually had the numbers for you, so to make us sound smarter. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you gave him credit.
Let's give him credit. But all right, you want to start at where do you want to go? Anybody in your mind?
Let me bring up my list. Go ahead. You start.
Okay, let's start with North Carolina. North Carolina ranked 10th in the AP poll this week. Obviously, Drake May. People are starting to finally get to see him because of some of these big games, including the one against Miami on Saturday night and realize the talent that Drake May is at quarterback, I have a feeling he may be one of those guys that starts bounding up the Heisman Trophy list. He's already considered the second best quarterback coming out in the draft behind Caleb Williams. So offensively, they've been awesome. Defense, though, it feels like this has been a constant since Mac Brown went back to North Carolina, that they've been a little bit light on the defensive side. Pass defense, especially right now. 58% of their completions against that they give up go for first downs. 18% go for 20-plus yards. So pass defense could be their, in my mind, fatal flaw moving forward for the North Carolina Tar Heels.
I will go, and you're doing a more specific thing, and that's okay. I have some of those too, and I'll openly admit when I have not seen a team enough. I've only seen the Tar Heels play a couple times. You looked at the analytical side, and I did a couple of these. I did. But I will go with, and you're going to find this on a couple of these, but the perception of the Tar Heels, have they been challenged? Have they? Playing in the ACC? What's the rest of their schedule look like? This computer crashes.
They don't play. They don't play. Which Louisville was one of the undefeateds that went by the wayside last week. But that trio of Louisville, Florida State, and North Carolina don't play.
I mean Duke? No, they play Duke.
No. Before last week, Florida State, Louisville, and North Carolina were all undefeated, and that trio doesn't play each other.
Right.
But, yeah, they do have Duke. That's at home.
Sorry, I misunderstood what you're saying.
Yeah. So, that's the only ranked team left.
And Duke goes to Florida State this week?
That's correct.
So will Duke be ranked when North Carolina plays them?
Yeah, it's a couple weeks away. Maybe not.
So I'm wondering if it's like fool's gold, if what we're seeing with everything. So it's just like the perception. Just them being in the ACC, I think that's kind of a flaw.
All right, what about Florida State?
Florida is kind of the same way, but when I'm looking into this stuff, it's like I'm getting nitpicky with them.
Well, that's the point.
It's the same thing. But they've been a little bit more challenged. But when it comes to playoff selection, and if there's a question, if Florida State will have to go undefeated. So it's that perception of being the ACC is kind of a flaw for me. What about you? What do you got?
The difference for Florida State is they do have a win over LSU.
They have that win over LSU and Clemson
that nobody else has right now. Not nobody else. Ohio State has the non-conference win over Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. But that's a big feather in their cap. Running game, they hit some big plays running game, but they're not much of a grinded out running team. So if it gets in a spot where they need to really run the ball, I don't know that you can count on huge plays in the run game. Those are more of an anomaly than a team that consistently grinds it out for like 5 yards a carry or whatnot. Let's go to Oklahoma.
Kind of in the same vein there. It's not so much the running game because we've seen some talent from the running backs. I would say run blocking on designed runs, which is so weird to say because the quarterback the quarterback run has been really good this year. I don't know if a lot of that came from pass breakdown and he just goes. Some of that is designed, but really for the running backs, the run blocking for the running backs is a big flaw for OU for me. Yesterday we were kind of flirting with the idea of the kicking, not special teams, but I don't think that was really fair because special teams as a whole hasn't been bad. And we said that too when we talk about punt blocks and punt returns and that stuff. So you don't want to kind of fault them just because a couple of guys are having some trouble kicking the ball. But the run blocking, the guys up front creating lanes, it's been an issue this year. And I blame the offensive line for their run blocking ability. Their pass blocking has been great. The run blocking has been questionable. It's been a flaw. And it's not on the running backs because,
is it not?
I don't know. Last year, the way that season ended in that bowl game, they looked really good, and we thought, man, the running game could be really good with those guys. But maybe health has something to do with that too.
It's not the same guys. That's the most baffling thing that there is in OU football. What happened to the running back rotation? I know it looks like Barnes has been nicked. It's baffling. That's probably the answer. But the one thing about that we've seen is they haven't ran the ball all year, and they've been able to get away with it. And maybe that turns out to be the fatal flaw. When they really need to run, they can't. Pass rush is another thing, 85th in sacks. But it's an interesting anomaly because one of the two, they're tied for third in tackles for loss in the country. They're ninth in pressure rate, but they're 85th in sacks. So they're getting pressure, but they're not tackling the quarterback.
Yeah. Is there a stat for sacks?
That's sack.
Like
this is sack per drop back, 85th. So maybe that
it's like they answer the call when you need them to. I don't know.
All right, Penn State.
Can we do them last?
Sure.
Okay.
Georgia.
Man, that's a tough one. And just because of what was announced this week, I might say tight end.
Yeah, that injury's huge.
That injury's huge, but that's more of a question. Like, can they? Who's going to step up in that position? Will that alter what the new quarterback wants to do? It's nice. Imagine being I just took over for a two-time returning national champions, and I have Bowers to throw to. Well, now he's gone. I have Bowers as my safety net or whatever. Now he's gone. So maybe tight end depth could be a flaw. I'm not going to label it a flaw, but we'll see. And I saw some stats last night. I was watching some college football pregame stuff or whatever, and they were talking about everybody else, all the other wide receivers who would step up, and they're. So I don't know. I'd say tight end might be the flaw.
I had that injury and I had history.
Yeah.
Nobody's done it in the AP era or in the
going
modern.
3, yeah.
Win 3 in a row.
Yep.
Okay, Coach Maynard's here. We'll do the second half, which will be this actually works out perfect because tomorrow we'll hit the Big Ten teams and the lone remaining Pac-12 undefeated. It worked out well.
Give me more time to really break these teams down.
You had a whole day. I told you this yesterday.
Well, don't get me started about my day.
You had a whole day, Jared.
The whole day what I do.
Hey, enough Ranger message board trolling or whatever.
That's what I'm
trolling
doing.
The Astros.
Yeah.
Joined now by Big Elk head coach Zach Maynard. Coach, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Junior high season ended up last night. 7th grade 6-2, and in the 8th grade an undefeated 8-0. I guess what's like your philosophy for those guys? Is it about the wins and losses, or is it more about Coach Green and his staff starting to build that culture that you then want those guys to step into once they get to varsity?
Well, yeah, it's culture is the name of the game. I don't care if it's a business, a school system entirely. I mean, you can even go like what Mr. Sparks has done with Elk City Public Schools. It starts in kindergarten, and each year we work up, and eventually you get the product at the end. So it's the same philosophy. Starts in 7th grade, and we move up, and they learn how to play the game and do it the right way and be good young men and do things right in the classroom. All that's a culture thing. However, talking with as good as our junior high staff is, that's what I wanted them to make sure that they did a really good job of. The scheme and then those things and the terminology needs to be somewhat the same. However, if you're doing things right from a culture standpoint, I really don't care what they ran, and they know that. Win football games. I think winning is important, especially at that age, because you don't. I don't know. The world's changed so much, and it's gotten crazy even in the short time that I've been an adult. But winning's important for, the psyche of the game and belief and just who we are and where we are now as a society. And so winning's a big part of everything. So, very proud of those guys and those coaches and those players. Felt like we didn't have hardly any issues with kids not doing the right thing. And I'm just really proud of the way they've handled themselves this year.
Kind of pull back the curtain. We'll stay with the junior high before we move on. How involved are you, or do you just trust your junior high staff and go, all right, you know what we do it?
Well, you've got great coaches down there. Coach Green, who's been was with the high school staff the last 2 years with me. Coach McClure, who's the head baseball coach, does an outstanding job. Was an offensive coordinator here at one point. And you got great men down there, good character men. So, and junior high and high school athletics are the same hour. So I really don't have much hands-on with them. However, we do meet, in the spring and in the summer as coaching staffs to make sure it's all lined out and everything's has their ducks in a row. And so I'm not very hands-on personally with there, but I am with the staff, if that makes sense.
Hanging out with Coach Maynard of the Big Elk football program. Let's go back to last week right quick. 61 runs, 404 yards. For you, we know what your philosophy is. We know how you want your teams to play football. How excited were you to see a fourth down stop in the third quarter, and then your team run 18 plays, go 97 yards, and every one of them was a run?
Yeah, no, it's beautiful football. I mean, it's bow your back, it's bow your neck defensively, and get the stop when it's needed. And then it's smash mouth in your face. Hey, here we come, offense, and it's why it's playing the game the way it was intended to be played, in my opinion, the way the game was created historically, and so I think our kids are really starting to. Coach Weber, my head football coach, sent me a really nice text after the game, and he just said they're starting to take on your personality, which is what you want to see as a head coach. I don't care what sport it is. You want your kids to have the personality, and obviously not going to be like me, but the personality of the team as a whole, being tough and being physical and being demanding of each other, and all of the things that I think make the game great and make great teams. You can see that starting to happen with our football team.
Speaking of personality and doing that and being tough, it can frustrate. And I think we saw that between the plays and even at the end of plays. It was frustrating Chickasha. Their defense and their personnel were just getting incredibly frustrated. What do you say to your guys? Like, hey, don't fall into that trap. Don't fall into that stuff after the whistle that can get you in trouble. And a couple times, maybe a couple guys did, and it's an emotional game. It's physical. I get it. But how do you keep your guys at a level head when you have that dominating drive like you did?
Well, it's the standard that you preach from day one. You can't. There's certain things you can't do. I think we scored on 6 of 7 drives. We had 7 drives in the game. We scored on 6 of 7. Should have scored on all 7. However, penalty keeps us from scoring. And so defensively, I don't know the actual statistics, and I'm not going to get into why or how or whatever, but it was just it's frustrating when you get to those points in the game and we make a mistake and it costs us. And I think that those are great teaching points moving forward. Whereas, hey, look, it's good to be emotional. It's good to play this game with intensity and with passion, but it has to be done between the whistles, within the rules of the game, so that we can ultimately win the game.
Was there anything, because it felt like from a discipline and the penalties especially, there was a huge difference after halftime. There was some pre-snap, jumping offside penalties. Was there something that was, mentioned at halftime, or is that just guys kind of settling in and then not letting that emotion overtake what they were doing on the field?
Oh, I mean, it was definitely addressed at halftime. The same way we always address it. We address it every week. And when you play this style of football, the other team nobody likes to get hit in the mouth over and over and over again. And so, and like you said, the other team gets frustrated. And then, the next thing you know, you're doing things you shouldn't be doing, things that aren't acceptable, which obviously they were addressed on our end. And really that's the only end that I care about.
And hanging out with Coach Maynard, let's look ahead to this week. Weatherford coming to town, beat them the last 2 years. The skill position guys that they have, you look out there, and of course 88 CJ is huge and can make plays. But the guy that seems like really kind of gets them going and scares you to death every time he touches it is 15, Nick Jett. Talk about him as a compliment to what Nixon does on the other side of him.
Well, it makes it really hard to key in on 88 too much because, like last year, I know he got loose on a post down the field because we had the safety and the corner jump 88 on a little hitch, and he just ran the 15 ran right by us, and so it's a great compliment. It's kind of like what Cooper Patton was to Levy Owens a year ago. It's kind of is what a little bit of our passing game is to our run game right now, and the ability to stretch the field. He's phenomenal. He's a great punt returner, great kick returner, great player, plays hard, plays safety for him as well. Very good player, and a great compliment to their other skilled kids. They've got some good backs. 9 and 27 are both really good backs, and so we'll have to be attention to detail oriented, knowing exactly what we're getting, knowing what we're supposed to be doing on the back end, and stopping the run still. And so, Weatherford's got a great coaching staff. Those guys do a phenomenal job, have for years. We'll have to be on our P's and Q's.
Unfortunately, it looks like what we're hearing is that their starting quarterback is going to be out for Friday night's game due to injury. Does that and most coaches will say, well, we're not going to change anything. We're going to continue to do what we do. But does that change maybe how you think they could approach it offensively to attack you guys with a new guy taking some snaps? Well, and if so, how do you prepare for that?
Well, if he's out, I could see them doing a plethora of different things. However, it's week 8. At this point, it took us longer than most people to say, hey, look, this is who we are, it's what we are, and it's what we're going to be about. I think most people kind of have a lot of that set in stone. It doesn't necessarily change anything from a practice plan. Now, it may change some in-game stuff and some adjustment stuff as we go, just depending on, what that kid's doing, with how they're trying to use him, especially early. But I expect him to be a great player, well coached, knowing exactly what to do and where to do it, and it didn't necessarily change much from us from a practice plan point.
Weatherford's defense has been really good, especially against the run. The Clinton-Weatherford game was really decided on a bad snap and a fumble on a jet sweep. Defensively, they held up against that run game. This is the toughest challenge run defense-wise since you guys have kind of been in the bone. So what are you looking for out of your guys this week to take on the front, and then probably the front 7 or 8 that Weatherford puts in the box?
Yeah, we're going to have to be extremely physical. And it doesn't change. It's just the fact that, okay, well, now they're going to put just as many people as everybody else is. They're just going to come with a little more intensity, a little more lead in their britches, and so we have to be willing to meet that challenge head on and continue to know that, hey, 2 and 3, 4 yards is a good play, and live in front of the down and distance, and not beat ourselves, do things right. Make big plays when we have opportunities to make big plays, and just play the game, essentially the same way. Not real sure exactly how they'll line up. They've lined up in a 4 some. They've lined up in the odd stack some. So that first series will be very important, just to figuring out exactly what they're doing and how we're going to adjust offensively. But very good defensively. Have been for several years. Last year they gave us fits. Moving around and doing different things, and we'll be a little more prepared for that this year.
How much do your guys know about the carrot at the end of this game, as far as win this game, you set yourself up in a great spot to be second? If Clinton falls, then you could even possibly win the district, but a win on Friday night goes a long way in getting to play one of those playoff games at home.
Yeah, it's not something that we necessarily talk about. I think it's just kind of common knowledge. We know, they know, we all know. But at the end of the day, it's a football game. We're going to play it Friday night, and everything's going to go on the table. We're going to give it everything we got, and whatever happens, happens. However, everybody in that room knows the implications.
All right. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be great.
Going to be a lot of fun. Head coach Zach Maynard of the Big Elks joining us here for a couple of minutes.
Just to clarify, Friday night.
Friday night.
Okay.
It's not Thursday. Not Thursday anymore. It's Fridays.
Someone call Cade.
Fridays and Friday. You know what? Hopefully there is one more Thursday. Hopefully there is one more Thursday night game.
Okay. I see where you're going.
Yeah, 7:00 at UCO. Thursday. What is it? I can't remember what the date is. The 30th of November? Yeah. I knew somebody would know. All right, thanks, Coach Maynard. Everybody have a great Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow. Skinny on Sports right here on the Sports Animal.
You've been listening to the Skinny on Sports podcast with Aaron Cow. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get alerts of when the latest podcast is available. Thanks for listening.
That ball is blistered